Hey there, good morning to you. Mark Stott with HurricaneTrack here. It's Monday now, the 9th of June, 2025. Everybody survived the MCS intact. I'm out here in Texas, in Wichita Falls, hence the hotel room backdrop. I was out here covering the severe weather yesterday, and I've got some highlights to show you as we end today's update. But going to start off with the tropics. We do have our first hurricane. It does appear in the eastern Pacific. That is Barbara. Off the coast of Mexico, there's another area out there as well. So the East Pac staying pretty busy as the MJO, the Madden-Julian Oscillation, seems to be more or less stuck there, and it just can't get over Central America. I mean, it's not that simple, but, you know, all the action right now does appear to be confined to the Eastern Pacific, and we are still waiting, joking of course, on that GFS hurricane that so many people like to share several days ago, far out in time. And look, I get it. It gets engagement. It gets people talking. So maybe it's not such a bad thing. Not that we need to debate that right now, but yeah, it's not happening. Not anytime soon anyway. Well, let me show you what is happening. That's why you're here. Thank you for tuning in to today's video. Let's get started. First, off the interactive tracking map from the HurricaneTrack Insider site, we can zoom in. And we have a Category 1 hurricane down here, Barbara. First hurricane of the Eastern Pacific season. And by the way, I do believe this is the first hurricane intensity tropical cyclone in the Northern Hemisphere in all of 2025 to date. That's pretty crazy. I think I've got that right. I'm sure if I don't have it right, you will let me know in the comments. But it's definitely the first hurricane of the Eastern Pacific season. And let's get rid of me and look at the forecast track from it. Forecast to stay off the coast of Mexico, so that's great news. Water temperatures and the overall thermodynamic profile up here where both of these systems are heading, not too positive for further strengthening, not too hospitable. So these will die away pretty quickly. Tropical storm, this one is Cosme, and it's forecast to become a hurricane later today. So we're going to be up to 2 short-lived, low-end, no impact, almost no impact. You might get some swells along parts of the Pacific coast up here. You know, got to be real about it, but very, very minimal impacts overall. All right, so that's good. And if we broaden this out, since our map does now incorporate all tropical weather stuff, we see that there is nothing here in the Atlantic Basin anywhere. If it were out there, a yellow area or whatever, our map would pick that up as well. So one-stop shopping here on the HurricaneTrack interactive map. So the full color, well, true color as it were, let's refresh this, see if we've got any more frames to show you as daylight is starting to happen across the East Pac over here. I'll show you what's what. There's Barbara, there's Cosme right there. Small hurricanes, geographically, spatially, however you want to put it. And again, they are not going to have any appreciable impacts on the Mexican coast, so that is great news. Trade winds, and then above those trades, the Saharan air layer, still pretty prominent through the Caribbean, out of the deep tropical Atlantic. The Gulf here, nice and clear, no real concentrated areas at all of thunderstorm activity. So the Gulf should stay warm and toasty and continue to do so. This is part of a big upper level low. Then we had a cold front that came through and that triggered that big MCS and clusters of storms yesterday. I'll show you more of that as we wrap things up later on in this little update here. Vorticity wise, and this is a great opportunity to show you what it is that I look for. And there, I mean, this is great because they don't have the symbols on them. That, my friends, is what happens when the energy gets bundled. And that's what I'm looking for. I want to see, do we get that over here? Anytime. That's the thing. This vorticity area, spin in the atmosphere, low-level vorticity, is spread out over a large area, as is all of these pieces up here. This is stretched out linearly, over thousands of miles. But nature does really interesting things when it bundles that energy, especially with all that heat that's down there. You get these tropical cyclones. This is vorticity that comes off of the mountains of South America. The trade winds are blowing through. gets lifted up and over, it accelerates down on the other side. The orographic lift and the orographic acceleration on the leeward side is pretty amazing. And once in a while, this area of energy can help to kick off some vorticity and energy associated with the Central American gyre and maybe an approaching tropical wave, and we can get development over here. So tracking this energy in the atmosphere, this low-level vorticity, cyclonic vorticity as we call it, is important and helpful in those two areas. That's what we're looking for, and we don't see any. So that's good. We also don't see any on the GFS, nor the Euro. I'll show you the GFS here out to, let's take it out to about a week. This is from the 6Z run this morning. And you see lots of pieces of energy that come through. And there is an attempt out at around day 5 roughly for pieces of energy in the East Pack to sort of get tangled up with that vorticity coming off South America down here, related to the trades in this very strong Bermuda high, trying to curl it up and concentrate it, but it winds up over Central America, Honduras, Nicaragua down there, and it's not able to consolidate over water. And there we are right about a week's time, and again, there's a little pocket of energy in the Southwest Caribbean, at least on this iteration of the GFS. More of it tangled up over here, over southern Mexico, Guatemala, etc. So, no, I mean, we're not going to see any kind of development. And I think it's easy to understand why. I mean, look at the ridge nosing its way in here, and it's keeping everything shoved down to this area. So the Bermuda high is probably just a little bit too strong right now to allow this to ease off a bit and get over the open waters of the Caribbean. Now, the Euro shows basically the same thing, and if I can get my stuff to work here, let's go to the 0Z, and let's jump over to the ECMWF, and we'll look at that out to, it's already jumped ahead there for me, thank you very much. We'll look at this too out to a week's time. Nothing on the Euro as well. Actually, it took me to the 6Z. That's fine. We'll take it out to 6 days. Whatever. Same thing. It's basically the same result. Lots of pieces of energy moving through, but nothing concentrated anytime soon. And you can see our systems in the East Pack just keep on going. All right, water temperature profile time. I like to look at this roughly once a week. I think it's important. How are the anomalies, the departures from the average, how are they doing? And I've been using this particular product. It used to be called the NOAA NESDIS. Now it is the Coral Reef Watch Daily 5-kilometer sea surface temperature product. Whatever. I like it. It seems to be pretty accurate, and it helps me to keep something consistent instead of jumping around from different data sets. I've always used this one, and by and large, it has not steered me wrong. So what do we know from it? What are we learning here? Let's use black and make that pop a little bit better. So the main development region through here, all the way to the Caribbean anyway, you can see as well as I do. It's warmer than average, yes. And some of these anomalies in here are 1 Celsius warmer. Those darker oranges, if I, and I am doing it, drew an isotherm around it, line of equal temperature, you know, that's your 1 Celsius roughly. The gradient is on here. You see the scale. But clearly, the MDR is warmer than average. And it doesn't matter. I've seen a lot of people talking about 2023 and 2024. Oh, it's cooled off significantly since those last 2 years. And I think there's a little bit of a danger in that, because those years are gone. And I'm not trying to be snarky or metaphorical about it. It's true. What happens now does not have any memory of what happened then. We're in a new year, and the weather does reset itself. There's not really a memory when you're talking about that long of a time span. With severe weather, yes, they say the atmosphere gets worked over. You get a hurricane that moves through, and then another one comes through fairly soon after. There's a little bit of a memory or upwelling. I mean, I'm talking very short time periods, but year over year, especially 2 years ago, 2023, for example, it was so very warm. Last year at this time, much warmer. Doesn't matter. We're looking at what things are now. I say it often. Open up the window, look out there, see what you see. And this is exactly what we see. A pretty warm main development region. and we don't have a cold Canary Current. You know, it's slightly warmer than average. And then, of course, the western basin over here is very warm. The full of the Gulf everywhere. It's all warm. And then we don't have an El Nino. And I keep coming back to that over and over. No El Nino is such a big check mark for giving us an active season. So we'll see. You know, everything's there, water temperature wise. The upper ocean heat content, all that, that's one thing that will be in place. What we'll have to watch for is our stability versus instability, where the tropical waves set up, that kind of thing. And it's only early June, and we can't really glean anything until later on as we watch the monsoon season really kick up over Africa, and it spits out those waves that come across, you know, either side of the islands here, and they do what they do. But again, you can see as well as I can, these anomalies are pretty substantial, and they're going to probably hold for the time being. All right. So severe weather yesterday was definitely hyped up a lot and warranted. I know the DFW area escaped major problems, and I've seen people hemming and hawing about that. I'm not going to tell my family ever again. Look, you should. If you go get a colonoscopy, and I know you're like, ooh, and it comes back clean and you're good, and you hear about all the horrors of cancer if you know, whatever, right? You don't stop getting a colonoscopy. I know they delay it or whatever, but that's my medical analogy for today. You know, you warn somebody, you're going to keep eating bad, you're going to have colon cancer, and you go get checked out and you don't. You know, well, I'm never doing that again. Of course, sometimes people don't, but that's a story for another day. Point being, please do keep warning your parents and people that are not as in tune as into the weather as you are, because you do have that power. I'm serious. Weather geeks, unite, stay strong, and keep warning. Keep letting people know to tune in, because one day that derecho or whatever MCS will hold together, and the Dallas force field isn't going to be there. I'm very serious. Don't beat yourself up about it. People might doubt you. Oh, they always get it wrong. No, they don't. Sometimes they do, and it's all probabilities anyway. There was never a guarantee. We don't want to talk about all that stuff. We could end up being here an hour. But luckily, it didn't manifest itself as bad as it could have for the Metroplex. Count yourselves lucky, all right? So, what are we looking at? Well, today, it's mainly in the east over here. Whoops, there we go. And slight risk over a pretty large geographic area. This area over here in New Mexico is mostly going to be wind-driven for the slight risk. Some hail, certainly, but the overall threat is diminishing now from the really strong stuff. The tornado potential over the next several weeks will start to go down. It won't be zero. Tomorrow, I'm going to be over here, finally, over in the extreme western part of the Panhandle, and we'll see. I think the hail risk will go up a little bit more. Right now, it's only at 15%. I think it goes up some. Because you get these big supercells over there, the Fort Stockton area and near the border. Oh, yeah. And I'm going to keep going after those big hailstones, which I'll talk about more in just a moment. So that's tomorrow. And then, come on, mouse. It's different than my home computer. So still, after all these years, I haven't mastered it. And then finally, on Wednesday is a travel day for me. I got to get up into Colorado over here to visit some colleagues up there. And then maybe Thursday, Friday, I'll be up in this region. And I'm going to be out here for a little while going after the big stuff. My goal, got the hurricanes. Obviously, that's where most people know me from. But it looks like my midlife crisis is hail. Hey, not bad. It's not as expensive as other midlife crises, right? For those that are old enough to know, that's a pretty funny joke. But seriously, it's a very interesting phenomenon and a very destructive one. I have talked extensively about that here. I've talked about it on Fox Weather. They have done a terrific job over the last year or so since I brought them the idea of let's really focus on hail more. That, them taking my advice, and that there is a huge project now through this concerted effort called the Ice Chip Project to study hail. Dr. Ian Giamanco and other scientists, just an incredible year. He told me yesterday over text, it's like the Super Bowl for him. It is a big win so far, and they still have some time on the clock to study and gather hail themselves. So that's what I'm doing out here, and it's a lot of fun. It's a very big challenge, but at the end, I get some amazing videos to show you, and I get to measure the hail too, and I'm going to publish a highlight reel a little later on. But I wanted to show you this. This is from the 360 cam, and I had it on top of my vehicle. And let me point a couple things out real quick before I turn down the road and show you what I'm going to show you. Actually, I just panned the camera, but I forgot already, right? That is a roof panel right there, and IBHS gave that to me to put into hail cores. And then that's a GoPro right there that films the hailstones pounding on that hail roof panel. I guess it will be a hail panel eventually if it gets beat up enough. And I collect all that data, geographic data, the concentration of hail, measurements, all kinds of stuff. And then I will send them a report when I'm all finished, all the different encounters that this roof panel dealt with, right? But what's amazing about this is I can pan the shot around. There it is. That's that supercell that so many people were on yesterday. And it formed it near Amarillo, and it moved its way south and east, eventually getting down to Paducah and beyond. Just monster hail down there, a massive hailstone conglomeration down there. I mean, they were nuked. But look at this. This is an incredible supercell. I turned down this road over here. Some guy was literally blocking the road. Like, dude, come on. Move out of the way. That's all we ask. Be courteous, but get on by. There it is. Look at all that greenage up there. And, I mean, just remarkable stuff. That's why we're out here. The beauty of it, the energy that that thing is releasing. I mean, man, oh man. Now, what is really funny about all this, way back up on the highway over here, you can't see them. Maybe they're right over here, a little line of cars. All of those chasers bugged out as that hail core got closer because they don't have that. You know, they don't, well, some of them do, but this is almost a full hail guard made out of aluminum, perforated aluminum, so I can mount stuff in those holes. And, you know, there's the Starlink over there. And they all bugged out, so I was by myself as that thing moved through. Let me see if I jump ahead a little bit, show you what the cell looked like as it got more green. Yeah, there you go. Look at that green in there. That is really, that blue-green, that ice blue-green. Freaking nature is awesome. I mean, come on. But I was after the hail, and the hail I got. This is over in Paducah. I put another camera out. Let's mute that. This was after the hailstorm went through. But look at those stones. Those are all 2 inches. The scale, because it's, you know, big, giant, wide field of view on the 360 cam. Those big ones are all 2 inches. And so that's, you know, like golf ball or larger in some instances. And what I find really fascinating is that the grass is all laid out this way. So I believe this was a wind-driven event, that it just came in and was just probably blowing through there 80 miles an hour. The fence was bent a little bit. The trees and shrubs back here are like super tough, so there was no tree damage evident. But the grass is all laid over, and I thought that was really interesting. And, you know, I'm glad, honest to goodness, there's my Tacoma, that I wasn't there, you know, because my side windows, I don't really have great protection for those when it's coming in at an angle like that, wind-driven. That could have been a problem. So I was glad to come across this after it happened. But I ended up measuring some of those stones. I weighed them. A little bit over 2 inches, huge concentration. There were reports of 4 inches out there, but it's challenging. It's hard to find the really big stuff like Matthew Capucci does. If you know that meteorologist, you know he's got the knack. But it's a really interesting part of meteorology and a very expensive one. And I'm going to keep at it over the next several days, if not longer, eventually getting up into the high plains. And I really do want to come away. Here's our Insta360. I want to have a hailstone that's that big in my hand. Oh, and by the way, when I put the highlight video up for you, you'll see I use the hail net again. It's this big fishing net, and I'll preface it. Look, it looks silly as heck. I understand that, but it really does work. You'll see it later when I throw it up on the YouTube for you in a little while. I already put it on Patreon. I'll throw it on YouTube later on today. All right. So that's it. At least the tropics are nice and quiet for now in the Atlantic, and severe weather will tamp down just a little bit for the time being. And with that said, I am done for now. As always, thanks for tuning in and giving me a part of your day. I appreciate it. From Wichita Falls, Texas for now, I'm Mark Sudduth. I'll see you from somewhere else later on in the week.